Well, you've got to understand that something that happened yesterday right here in Kansas City is one of the bravest things that has happened in all of 2024. And it took place right in our backyard. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's great to be here on KCMO. What is that thing? That thing is the NAIA. Yeah, you know, the College Sports Conference, National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, decided that they were going to require women's sports to only include biological women.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know. If I were to rewind the clock to 20 years ago and tell you that this was going to be highly controversial, you would have said to me, what are you talking about? What planet am I living on? Well, now you know. The NAIA decided yesterday that they were going to make sure that they were protecting women's sports. Not all the dopey headlines that you're seeing from the Washington Post, the Associated Press, ESPN. Their headlines read as follows: NAIA bans all transgender women from women's sports. A transgender woman is not a woman. That's the point. You know, you can be accepting of somebody who wants to live a life as a transgender person, while also saying, I'm sorry, when it comes to playing sports against 18 to 22-year-old women, that's not going to happen. That's inherently unfair to those women. Both those things can be true, and neither of them are controversial at all. But we have created an insane culture that if you say something that obvious, if you say something that simple, if you say, hey, listen, you live your life, but when it comes to competing as a biological male against young women, that's not going to happen. That's inherently unfair to those young women. You get called everything under the sun. Transphobe, cancel, right-wing, nut job. You get called all of it. And that's the scariest part of this. The NAIA, though, they stood up for something yesterday. They announced a policy that most sports leagues, most companies for that matter, would never have the backbone to do. And the NAIA did it yesterday on a 20-0 vote at their annual convention right here in Kansas City. The NAIA oversees 83,000 athletes competing in more than 25 different sports. And as far as we know, they're the first college sports organization to take a step like this. This is impressive. Like, do not think of, oh, you know, they did the right thing. Yes, they did the right thing. But the courage that this takes in this environment to do what they did should not be lost on any of us. Jim Carr is the president of the NAIA. We reached out to Jim to try to get him on the show this morning. We have not heard back yet. Fox 4 was able to track him down yesterday at the NAIA headquarters, and he said something that, you know, most of us thought until 5 years ago.
When we think about fairness and competition, I think it's pretty well accepted that there are male advantages in sport. Strength, size, speed.
Wow, you don't say. Strength, size, speed. You know, was talking to my neighbor the other day. Our girls were out playing in the backyard together, and he mentioned how his, I want to say she's 8-year-old daughter at this time last year was playing in a co-ed soccer league. And, you know, they signed her up. They knew it was going to be co-ed, but he's like, it was a huge mistake in hindsight. The boys are just a mile ahead of the girls at that age. How old was that? 8.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes on the note, listen, it was a mistake. The boys are doing their thing. The girls are doing their thing. There's nothing about it that's inherently fair. And that's at 8. And guess what? Once you get to like 12, 13, this thing happens. It's called puberty. You know, males' bodies start changing. Female bodies start changing. I'll let you fill in the blanks as you see fit. And then that strength, that size, that speed differential only continues to grow. I know I'm going back to my basic biology class, my, health class from 5th grade, where we learned about what happens to boys and what happens to girls as they approach puberty. But, it seems like a lot of people in this country have forgotten those classes from when they were 10 years old. The bodies change. Things happen. They're different. And Jim Carr, the president of the NAIA, is pointing out what has been biologically obvious to anybody with a brain since the beginning of mankind. But now he says this on camera in Kansas City in 2024, and we have to call that now bravery. That's what it is, though. It's bravery. And he went also on to point out the very obvious. This is not just about, strength and speed. It's also about protecting Title IX and protecting women.
We certainly did not do this with any intention of making any statement about transgender students or transgender folks who want to participate in athletics. But we believe our job was to make sure that our competition was fair and that we're similar to what Title IX does. We're protecting our female category.
Well, that's because that's what it's always been about. They're not making a statement on transgender people, transgender folks wanting to compete in sports. We're just here talking about this through the prism of protecting women's sports, because that's what it is. At its very core, that's what this conversation is about. And as a father of 3 daughters, I don't know if they're ever going to bump into something like this in their athletic career. I have no idea what it's going to lead to. What I do know is this much. If they ever find themselves playing NAIA sports, and I'm not convinced they will, I'm not sitting here giving them the best athletic genes in the history of mankind, but at least I'll know at that level they would be protected. Because there's been too many people at the NCAA level, most notably Riley Gaines and Slick Willie Thomas, and what they had to deal with there in the swim races a couple of years ago, who were not protected, who had to share trophies or split trophies and not get the attention that they should get. And on top of that, you have people who literally are pushing for this. Because, caring about women is so 2019. It's so pre-COVID. It's not something we care about anymore. It's not woke enough. So now we need to cancel women and take positions away and scholarships away from women to prove that we are sufficiently woke, John.
I hope Keith Olbermann read that.
Yeah, I hope Keith Olbermann did read that too.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
I wonder if Leah Thomas has a jumper, because as we talked yesterday, apparently welcoming the basketball side, So that's where this is where the liberals' heads implode if we try to get a man in the WNBA.
Yeah, they will lose their minds.
That would be it, wouldn't it?
Well, that would be something. I still think they would advocate for the biological male over the women. I think they would. They'd have to, right? They'd have to.
Right.
By their own standards, they would have absolutely no choice. And I don't know who Leah Thomas is. I only know Slick Willie Thomas. That's the only Thomas I know. But I'm done with done with the Leah Thomas stuff. It's Slick Willie, okay?
Touché.
All right. Thank you very much. Good to be here on a Tuesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. I'm telling you, man, this NAIA deal, do not understate it. Takes a lot of cojones, to stand up there and say, we're not going to have cojones in women's sports. That's what it takes. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio, Joe Biden announcing his latest student loan bailout during an election year. He's buying votes. We'll get to that story next on KCMO 95.7 FM. Who do those bastard Supreme Court justices think they are anyway? Telling Joe Biden what he can and can't do with the taxpayer money. He's going to do what he damn well pleases. That's what he's going to do. I know the Supreme Court last year blocked the administration's $430 billion student loan write-off, but nobody slows down King Grandpa. Nobody is going to slow that guy down. And that's basically the approach of this White House and this administration last night. They pitched themselves 40 years ago as bringing normalcy and democracy and everything under the sun back to the country that they claimed was missing and lacking under Donald Trump. But here they are once again telling the Supreme Court to basically buzz off. The Supreme Court does not slow down this administration from doing what it wants to do. And that was evident again yesterday when Joe Biden rolled out his latest attempt to bail out student loans and buy votes in November with our money. Here he was.
From day one, my administration has been committed to fixing this broken student loan system and making sure higher education is a ticket to the middle class, not a barrier. My administration has approved debt cancellation for 4 million Americans through various actions. And today, I'm announcing new plans that would cancel student debt for millions more. In total, these plans would cancel some or all student debt for 30 million Americans when combined with everything we've done so far. To find out how these plans may impact you, visit studentaid.gov.
I love how he reads that website. Go to studentaid.gov. How many takes did that take there for Joe? Go to I'mHereToScrewTheTaxpayer.com. Or .gov, probably the better way to put it. But that was the video from Joe Biden yesterday. Now, he talks about this is all about higher education for the middle class. It's not. It never has been. Because anybody who is serious about improving the higher education avenues for the middle class would not take middle-class tax dollars and put it towards those with college degrees and graduate degrees who theoretically are in positions to become higher earners than many in the middle class, who do not have the advanced degrees of those that Joe Biden is about to bail out or attempting to bail out. Now, where's this going to go? It's probably going to end up in the courts. But for Joe, he doesn't really care about that. He's going to try to spend as much of the money as he can and act like Santa Claus and then say the big bad Republicans are here to prevent you from getting your student loans bailed out. So what we know about this right now, and Joe alluded to a little bit of it there, is that borrowers whose loan balances have ballooned because of interest would have up to $20,000 of their interest balance canceled. The plan would waive the entire interest balance for borrowers considered low and middle income who are enrolled in the administration's income-driven repayment plans. So basically, if you have an enormous amount of student debt and you're not making any money, which, by the way, you would think would be a problem of the schools and your own decisions, well, guess what? You get rewarded. Borrowers who are eligible for but have not yet applied for loan forgiveness under existing programs like Public Service Loan Forgiveness or the administration's SAVE plan would have their debts automatically canceled. Borrowers with undergraduate debt who started repaying their loans more than 20 years ago and graduate students who started paying their debt more than 25 years ago would have their debts canceled. Borrowers who enrolled in programs or colleges that lost federal funding because they cheated or defrauded students would have their debts waived, and borrowers who are experiencing hardship paying back their loans because of medical or child care costs would also be eligible for some type of relief. So I'm just wondering, right now, as you're getting up at 6:23 in the morning, you've got child care costs. You're trying to make ends meet. Is Joe here to pay off your mortgage? Will he pay off your car insurance? Will he pay for your groceries this month? I mean, he might. Or is he just going to go out there and try to buy votes of young people who might be on the fence on showing up to vote for him? So he's going to try to pretend like he's looking out for them by bailing out student loans. Is that what it's really about? Of course that's what it's really about. That's what it's always been about. It's not about the middle class. It's not about trying to actually bring down the cost of college. Nobody in their right minds would do this if they wanted to bring down the cost of college. This is a moral hazard. What do you think the colleges are going to be encouraged to do here? The colleges are now just going to keep raising costs, especially in graduate programs where there's no federal loan limits, because who cares if the kids repay? They're going to be forgiven one way or another, as long as this guy and his ilk are hanging around the White House. This is the opposite of helping out the middle class pay for anything in higher education. 913-408-7957. Dan is in Lenexa. What's up, Dan? Good morning, man.
Hey, Pete, just real quick, I don't understand how you think this is buying votes, because this is going to turn more people off than helping. I mean, I just don't understand.
See, I agree with you, Dan. I perceive this the same way you do. However, who is the base right now for the Democratic Party? The base is the overeducated suburban voter who may not show up because
such a low minority, Pete. That's a low minority.
It's not. I mean, the suburbs are the fastest growing part of the country. This is not.
I don't see that.
It's not about.
The majority of us are getting out of bed and going to work every day and don't have those fancy names on our resume.
Well, I agree. I mean, the majority, but it's also unfortunately a shrinking majority. The Democratic coalition.
I don't see how that. Pete. How can it be a shrinking majority? People are getting out of bed and going to work every day.
Well, the labor participation rate is down, and that's what they want.
I suppose that might be, but I know I retired a union member. Those unions will hire you today if you're a competent person.
Yeah, but they can't find you. They can't, and you're right, and they can't find those folks anymore, right? I mean, it's harder and harder to find competent people who want to work.
Yeah, I agree. They don't want. They don't want to get dirty. I've made my point, Pete, and everything you say is 100% correct, and I think it's all just gotten to the point where it's just all repetitive. But I just really think this is going to turn more people off, and I wish I could get a bumper sticker that said "Pay your own loan, parasite," because that is the bumper sticker I would put on my car.
Hey, maybe we'll get some made with the KCMO logo, and I'll make sure you get yours for free, Dan, okay?
Yeah, well, hey, I appreciate everything, Pete. Hang in there, buddy.
Hey, you too, my man. Listen, Dan's talking common sense, and I agree with him 100%. But the base of the party now, the base of Joe Biden's voter bloc, are those who don't want to work and those who are overeducated to the point of, not really having a skill set necessarily that drives them to make the money they need to pay back these insane loans. So Joe gets to look like a hero on the back end by saying, don't worry, I'm here from the government, and I'm here to help. That's what he gets to do, and that's what he wants to do, by the way. Instead of actually digging into how this system got so broken, he just wants to look like a hero with our tax dollars. But they need those suburban voters, those people who might not just show up because they know that he hasn't done a great job, so he's trying to buy them out. Neil, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
It's like he's like a superhero, super Joe. Dun, da, da, da. Isn't it so convenient? It's like, hey, let's come in and pay all this student loan off. It's like these people are so out of touch with like the middle class, especially. It's a freaking joke, man. What about this? Is like a slap in the face to the people that have done the right thing and paid their student loans off over the years. Is he going to recompensate them for the money that they've already spent over the years for doing the right thing? And here's another thing. I'm blue collar worker. What about the tradesmen that have gone through, all the union people that have paid for tools for their work?
Yeah.
Are you going to pay all the thousands of dollars that these men and women have paid for their tools to be in the trades that they're working now that they've?
Of course not, because you're not a Biden voter, Neil. You get it.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, what was I thinking? Dang. Dang it.
You're a smart man, Neil.
Love you, man. You guys are doing great things there. Keep it up, man. I appreciate all that you guys are doing there, man.
Hey, Neil, God bless you, buddy. Thanks for the call. Have a great day.
Take care, man.
You too. 913-408-7957. Famous last words from Neil. What was I thinking? News coming up in a minute. We're back with you on this and the Dopey Eclipse all next.
Your loans will be completely forgiven, regardless of your income and even if you did not graduate. So I'm going to repeat that. If you've paid undergraduate loans for more than 20 years or graduate loans for more than 25 years, those loans will be completely forgiven, regardless of your income and even if you did not graduate. And forgiveness will be automatic for the vast majority of the 25 million people that we believe will benefit from this approach.
I mean, they are just literally ripping out all the stops here. That's what they're doing on a Tuesday morning. It's great to have you here on KCMO 95.7 FM. That was the esteemed vice president talking about the rollout of student loan bailouts yesterday, the latest attempt by the administration to bail out student loans. Just unbelievable gall and audacity. And notice how she said there, like, this is going to be regardless of income and regardless of whether or not you graduated. So you might be a, college dropout drug lord making $500,000 a year and they'll figure out a way to bail out your student loans as long as you vote for Pops.
Actually, if you've ever attended a frat party, whether you're enrolled in the university or not, or ever gone to a sorority function.
Yes, if you once bought a sweatshirt, guess what? Game on, man. Get that application in for your student loan forgiveness. Holy cow. 913-408-7957. They have told the Supreme Court to pound sand. And if the roles had been reversed, right, and just to put the shoe on the other foot here, and if Donald Trump had been this brazen about ignoring the Supreme Court's decisions, could you imagine the meltdowns on social media today? Could you imagine the way Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and your social media timelines, and some of you on this text line at 913-408-7957. Think about how you'd be reacting today if Donald Trump was this brazen about basically ignoring the highest court in all the land. Because, well, morally, they claim they're doing the right thing. Actually, they're doing the morally wrong thing. But they don't care about that. It's a vote-buying scheme. And that's the name of the game ahead of November. 913-408-7957. Rachel is in Lee's Summit on KCMO. Hello, Rachel. Good morning. What's going on?
Hello. Good morning. I just wanted to make a comment about the school loan. The thing is that it's basically educational welfare. I have a loan. I have it as an educator. I can have it forgiven with no problem. And I was like, no, it's my bill. When we go to eat, we don't expect other people to pay our bills, our food. Why do we expect this? And, for Kamala Harris, we know she didn't use any of her education to get to the top. So, maybe she's just trying to set that precedent for other people.
Maybe.
But can I say one more comment off the subject? The young man and that shot up the school and then his parents, they're going to be sentenced today. I want to know, are we going to hold the parents of the minors who shot at the parade, are we going to hold their parents accountable also?
Now, are you talking about, are you talking about Michigan or Wisconsin?
Yes.
Okay.
But are we going to start doing that here? I mean, we had minors that had guns shooting at our parade. Are we not going to hold those parents also accountable? Because I guarantee you, they know about their children having those young men having guns. Mm-hmm. And I think we need we're cherry picking all over the country, like what we're going to be doing. So, in regards to the, like I said, the student loan, it's just educational welfare.
Yeah.
And I know people who just keep going into education. They keep doing more and more college because they know they don't have to pay any of it.
Yeah.
So
no,
you're
right.
Racking up the bill.
You're right. There is absolutely, and I know people like that too, Rachel. Great call. Who are out there and literally just keep adding to their educational bill with the hopes of, first off, never having to grow up. There's a Peter Pan mindset to it as well. Never having to go out, get a job, go into the real world. I'm just going to keep getting degrees, keep racking up the loan bill, and then, become a good socialist and hope that it gets paid off one day. And advocate for that said socialism, by the way, as you work your way through the educational process and likely end up working in education, because that's, for the most part, what you're going to have the skills to do. Permanently remain in higher education till the end of time. So it's this cycle. It's a vicious cycle that gets people tied up in this nonsense that has become higher education. Now, it's not that I'm saying college is not important. I went, Mark went, John went. If my girls obviously grow up and, want to pursue something that requires a college degree, I am going to be fully pursuing and pushing that with them. I want that for them. They could do trades, but obviously that's typically more male-leaning than female-leaning. So for women in particular, having 3 daughters, college is probably still at this point their best bet. It's not about being anti-college, but it does need a reckoning. The entire system needs a reckoning. There's only so many Hillsdales out there, Now, yes, you can get good experiences in many of our local schools and area schools, public and private, but you got to find them as well. And that's what makes it more difficult depending on the situation and where you're at and who you end up interacting with and who you get, by the way, as your professor. Pete, I spent 22 years in the Navy. This is on the text line. My GI Bill didn't cover all of college. I still paid thousands out of pocket. Is Joe Biden going to pay for the injuries that I received when I was in the Navy? Is he going to pay for the stress? Is he going to pay for the 22 years that I was away from my family? Sometimes I can't believe this is the country I served so proudly during that time. That is a very powerful text. And when you think about it in that context, right? People actually use GI Bills, people who, serve, people who do ROTC to get their bills paid. Those things I understand. I know plenty of people who have done that, who have done the ROTC route. They then serve their country and they walk out of college debt-free. That's admirable. You're doing something on behalf of your country. You're in large part either risking your life or at the very least helping those who are risking their lives on behalf of this nation. But now we've watered this down to the point of who cares about that, right? Who gives a rip about serving your country? Now you literally have the vice president saying, you don't even have to graduate. We don't even care how much money you make. You could be a total bum or you can make $500,000 a year. And if you're just not paying your loans because you want to buy a new Rolex or you want to go out on a nice new cruise, you don't want to bother paying back your student loans. If you're a doctor, we will take middle-class tax monies and we will bail you out. We will take care of that for you. Out of the generosity of our hearts, really, we want your vote. Vote for us in November. Vote blue. And it ties back to who their core audience and constituency is. And it's really become the overeducated, wealthy, and the very poor who also don't want to work their way out of being very poor. The lazy. Not. Notice how I didn't say the poor. I said the poor and the lazy. But all the rest of us in between, from working class to middle class to upper middle class, who are just waking up every day and grinding away, we are not the target audience anymore. We are not the target demographic anymore for Joe Biden's America. And that in and of itself is sad because, this is not close to Bill Clinton's party. It's a shell of that at this point. Coming up on KCMO, how many of you were staring out like lemmings at the sun yesterday at 1:54 in the afternoon? All right. Oh, man. I got some thoughts on that I'm going to share with you. Plus, how some tried to talk about the eclipse in the realm of climate change. I'm not kidding you. I am not joking on that. Yes, somebody tried to make the case that the eclipse was tied to climate change. We'll play it next and tell you who it was on KCMO 95.7 FM. I don't get it. I'm not trying to in any way be a Debbie Downer. I mean, if you're into the eclipse, I guess yesterday was your day. I just don't understand how we can't get Americans to agree on anything, including what a man and a woman is. But we somehow got 300 million Americans to care greatly about the sun being temporarily covered for a few minutes by the moon. And all I noticed yesterday, because I walked out of the office right about 1:45-ish, and, there's all these people in the building here at Corporate Woods I've never seen before in my life, just standing there with their glasses, looking at the sun. I'm like, what are we doing? What maybe I'm missing, and I'm happy to be missing something here, John. I just don't know what I'm missing. I don't understand what I'm missing.
I understand now because we had a lady call in yesterday and said it's kind of weird when it gets dark and the animals do their things. And my street light came on at the end of the driveway last time, so I'm on the porch. Of course, now I'm just organizing my tornado watching kit for the season, get the lawn chair and the coolers out. So I'm multitasking.
Yeah.
But no, it got nowhere near as dark.
It didn't get that dark?
Because we were further out of the path.
Okay.
Yeah. So last time my street lights came on and stuff, I thought it is kind of, eerie,
yeah,
weird for 4 minutes, but at least I only traveled to my front porch last time 6 years ago.
So this is like a bad sequel, it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm outside and I'm looking at my phone going, wait, 1:54?
Yeah.
Peak time. It's not dark. And the lighting is really kind of weird. It's cool, but it's nothing to drive for. Well, if you want to drive and be in that place where it's completely dark,
you had to go somewhere
5
else.
minutes.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was nothing. I mean, I walked out yesterday,
was
and it was nothing. I mean, it was kind of like maybe a little hazy-ish. It cooled down a little bit.
The lighting is filtered. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. But muted. I didn't notice it get dark at all.
No.
It didn't get dark. It was just kind of like, it looked like there was a little bit of a haze in the air.
I drove by Hy-Vee on the way home to get some glasses for the wife because she was going to be driving to work as it was kind of going on.
Yeah.
And the parking lot was filled. And I thought it was people just going to get the new Chateau Milk, but everybody was getting the glasses.
They were getting the glasses at the very last minute, huh?
I even bumped into Jackson Mahomes over there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You saw Jackson Mahomes at Hy-Vee yesterday?
Yeah, people were trying to get pictures of him. He's like, I got to go. Everybody's got to go. We got the glasses. We got to leave.
So wait, Jackson Mahomes was just hanging out at Hy-Vee to get his glasses.
Yeah.
Was he getting mobbed?
There was just a couple people asked for a picture.
And he said no.
And he was like, I got to get going. Somebody said, are you Jackson Mahomes? And I thought they were talking to me. I'm like, no. And then he was at the checkout behind me.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, man. Was he okay?
Yeah, he was all right.
Yeah?
Tall guy.
Yeah, he's big, right?
Yeah.
He's big. All right.
But, hey, you look like.
See,
everybody wanted to look out there.
Another reason to not buy into the eclipse because Jackson Mahomes was buying his dopey Chinese-made sunglasses to stare up at the sun like a goober.
I forgot. I was going to check his TikTok to see if he made a video about it, but I didn't go there yet.
He could have made a video with you, Mark.
I know.
That would have been epic for you.
Fun.
And for this show. You could have held up your 95.7 T-shirt and logo in the background of Jackson Mahomes' TikTok. And you really could have done some damage for us, man, on the marketing side. On the text line, 913-408-7957. That's how you join us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, it's amazing. I looked up at the eclipse yesterday, and it said to listen to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM. How'd you pull that off? Did you see the FJB part of that, too, or just the listen to Mundo in the Morning? I just want to make sure you saw the whole message if you saw that message in the eclipse last night or yesterday afternoon. What a bust here in Kansas City.
Yeah, for us, it was a bust. The girls said that they kind of had fun with it, but they said it just kind of looked like a banana by the end of it because there was still a sliver of sun.
It looked like a banana. Yeah, that's the nicest thing I'll call the eclipse from yesterday.
Yeah, 6 years. It got as dark as it is right now outside, right? So the parking lot lights are on and people got their headlights on. It got that dark last time, but nowhere near that yesterday.
So I put up this tweet yesterday that went viral and it really bothered a lot of people. And I don't know why. I wrote basically what I said to you just a few minutes ago. I said, we literally can't get Americans to agree on the basics anymore. Like what a man and a woman is. Yet we have 300 million people stopping work, school, and daily activities to stare at the sun in Chinese-made paper glasses like a bunch of lemmings. We are so effed. And, I mean, my goodness. My mentions, I thought it was kind of harmless. It was like 2:18 in the afternoon when I wrote that. So after the eclipse had come and gone. And, I mean, people are just blasting me. Media people in this town, former media people in this town, they're like, here's one tweet I got from Dia Wall, who used to be an anchor on Woke 41. She wrote to me, the fact that you tweet this mess during one of the most remarkable, astronomical experiences people have seen in hundreds of years is pitiful, Pete. I truly expected better from you. Wait, what? We saw one 7 years ago. What am I missing out on here?
That was more phenomenal and amazing.
And astronomical. How dare our community, schools, and lifelong scientists educate and inspire people of all ages? I mean, if you're inspired by it, fine. I was not impressed. That's all. And I certainly wasn't impressed when I saw some of the media reaction yesterday, like this from Sunny Hostin on The View, where she tries to equate the eclipse to climate change. And even her own dopey co-hosts, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, are like, yeah, that one doesn't pass the smell test.
Those things together would maybe lead one to believe that, either climate change exists or something is really going on.
Returning. Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground. It happens. And the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen.
When Whoopi Goldberg is your voice of reason... When Whoopi Goldberg is the one who's like spitting the facts and making the sense, you've really got a bad
End
product.
of days, Papa.
Yep. You've got yourself some issues there. But hey, for enough people, I guess that's what they're looking for on a daily basis. So hopefully today at 1:55, everyone will be, doing their jobs and at work and not worrying about staring at the sun. But I did see one of the biggest searches last night on Google is, why do my eyes hurt? Which tells me that we are so screwed as a nation. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. Happy Tuesday. Don't forget about Tirade Tuesday coming up at 8:30. I got mine out of the way with the eclipse. Yours are coming up at 8:30. Not that you needed more reminders, but just saw this article here I wanted to cite where they went in and they looked at the political affiliation of National Panhandler Radio, of which we have obviously an affiliate in this town. In D.C., where NPR is headquartered, there were 87 registered Democrats working in editorial positions and 0 Republicans. Not one, not two, a big old goose egg. Just so you know what you're dealing with here.
Diversity?
Yeah. No, as long as everyone looks different, it doesn't matter what they think.
Well, there you go.
There's diversity of look. There's 0 diversity of thought. Defund NPR. That's our next KCMO bumper sticker, along with the other one the guy thought of this morning. I'm already forgetting what he suggested. But either way, we've got bumper stickers galore coming across the show today in an hour and 6 minutes thus far.
It was a parody on that Biden one.
Oh,
but it was pay your loan.
Yeah.
What do you say, pay your loan? Whatever the rest of the Biden thing was.
Yeah, something about paying the loan. Yeah, good job. Anyway, we've got it rolling here on KCMO in the 7 o'clock hour. Who's going to keep the plaza safe? We had another shooting over the weekend, of course, right outside of Shake Shack. You had windows blown out at the Shake Shack. Multiple cars had their windows blown out as well. And people are looking for answers. And the city is hiding. Before I share this clip from KCTV5, I want to take you back to Sunday. On Sunday, I reached out to a prominent business owner on the plaza that you all would know. And I said, hey, do you want to come on tomorrow and talk? And he kind of hemmed and hawed. And, not for me. I'm not the best person. Let me direct you to the Plaza Council. It's some organization that oversees the businesses on the plaza. So I talked to that person. Hey, do you want to talk tomorrow? I said, you guys got to stand up for something here, because if not, the narrative's going to write itself. And if you think we're not going to cover it, if you think you can run away from this stuff and just hope that people don't pay attention and they're not going to notice the plaza is not what it was even a few years ago, that's your prerogative, but I think it's very dumb for your business. And, they disagreed. So then they said, well, how about you talk to Melissa Johnson? Now, Melissa Johnson is the director of public safety under Quentin Lucas. She works in the mayor's office, and she's running for prosecutor as well of Jackson County. So she wants to be the next prosecutor in Jackson County. I don't know her, never met her, but she is somebody who is looking to be the next prosecutor, and she's the director of public safety. So I said, sure, if she wants to come on the show, I'd be happy to have her. Well, there was a misunderstanding along the way, and basically they put in a request to have the mayor on my show yesterday. So they reach out to me, and they say, oh, the mayor can't do an interview tomorrow. And I'm like, I wasn't looking for the mayor. He comes on every Thursday. I don't want, I'll always talk to him, but I said I wasn't looking for the mayor. I wasn't expecting the mayor. I said, I thought we were going to get Melissa on. And they told me, I really never got a response after I wrote that back. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, the mayor just want to talk to me on a Monday after a shooting on the plaza. That's fine. We talked to him on Thursday. We'll talk to him then about it. But why are all these people suddenly clamping up? And is it just me, or is it other media? And that leads me to what KCTV5 reported on yesterday, when they also had a very difficult time trying to get a hold of anybody with the mayor. And he didn't want to talk to KCTV5. Here's part of their package.
Now, last year, Mayor Quentin Lucas met with potential buyers for the plaza, and we were supposed to know if they were the new owners by the beginning of this year. We have not found that out yet. I reached out to Mayor Quentin Lucas's office to see what's going to be done to keep people safe on the plaza and when we're going to find out who the new owners are. But he said that they were not able, or they said he was not able to comment for today. I will continue to get those answers and work for more.
I don't know if you will, Gianna Navarro at KCTV5. I mean, I appreciate that you're going to work. I mean, we're going to do the same thing. But I'm pretty convinced you're not going to get those answers right now. Number one, as I told you weeks ago, I have been hearing that the Plaza deal with this company, HP Village Partners, could be on the rocks. And that's why you haven't heard anything about it since late last year. And I, maintain that the sources on that are pretty good. So that deal could be going up in smoke. And I'll tell you right now, another shooting on the Plaza on Saturday does not help that deal get done. And then it gets back to, what is the mayor going to say? We've had to talk about this on multiple other occasions, and there's not a real answer. It's a combination of, we'll try to get some cops down there, but also the Plaza's got to hire its own people and off duty and things like that. Well, here's the thing. Restaurants, individual locations can hire off duty, but what do you do when guys are treating the streets? They're treating 47th Street in front of Shake Shack like it's the freaking OK Corral. I mean, what do you do then? There's nothing to necessarily do if you're the Plaza on that. That's where you need law enforcement to step up to the plate through the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and say this BS is going to end. You guys want to act like a bunch of thugs? You go do that somewhere else. You are not going to intrude on one of the city's most valuable and prized entertainment districts and start treating this place like it's your playground to settle scores and start blasting each other and shooting up innocent people's cars. Thank goodness nobody was in them and nobody got injured. But the city is going to single-handedly destroy one of the crown jewels of the region if they don't get this stuff under control. Because who's going down there right now? I mean, seriously. I've been down there for a lunch in the last few weeks. That's about it. Now, in fairness, when you got a third kid, you're not going really anywhere. But either way, when I get back to going out and living a little bit more of a life, I can tell you I'm not racing back to the Plaza for a dinner anytime soon. And I'm not saying that with joy. That saddens me. I don't want to feel that way. I've spent a lot of money down there in my several years here. But am I dying to go do it right now? No pun intended? Heck no. And I think that there are millions of people in this 2.5 million metropolitan area who've got to be of the same belief right now, John Anthony.
Well, you're right about it. Once you ignore it somewhere, it encroaches other parts of the city. We're coming off of the Crown Center deal. Nobody want to talk about that. Don't talk about that.
Yeah, don't talk about Crown Center.
Union Station, obviously, at the parade. Now, prior to that, the main conversation about the Crossroads, even before the stadium went in, remember we had a business owner going, dude, when my lease is up, I'm out of here.
Hey, you're right.
So,
yeah, and speaking of the Crossroads, that whole area, and speaking of the Crossroads, I mentioned this, a prominent public figure in this town was held up at gunpoint in the Crossroads. No one's talked about it. The person doesn't want it out there publicly. But I can tell you for a fact it happened about 4 weeks ago. A prominent public figure in this community was held up at gunpoint in a prime area of the Crossroads. Got zero coverage. Now, I wish they would come on this show and talk about it, but they don't want to, and that's fine. But I can tell you it happened. And we're just supposed to sit here and whistle past the graveyard. And no one's got any answers because nobody wants to talk about it. Regardless of what you think of Quentin Lucas, you got to give him this much. He's willing to talk. And the fact that other media outlets have reached out to him and he has not been willing to talk tells me that the answers that they're going to give, they know are not sufficient. And the answers they should give, frankly, they're in part afraid to give. They fear giving the answers that need to be given, which is the people who are corrupting this town, the people who are acting like thugs on the streets. We are going to make sure we're cracking down on this, and it's certainly not going to happen where innocent people are hanging out trying to spend their tax dollars in our city. Two things happened yesterday in the cultural conversations that surprised me. In a positive way, but they surprised me. First, you had the NAIA right here in Kansas City announcing that when it comes to its conference, they're a step below Division I, Division I AA, Division II. They're kind of that tweener between D2 and D3 is what I would call the NAIA. And they're headquartered right here in Kansas City. And the NAIA announced yesterday that if you want to compete in women's sports in the NAIA, well, guess what? You got to be a biological woman.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know. It's like, what a concept, right? Can you believe it? And it was a 20-0 vote at their annual convention here in town yesterday. And, it's a no-brainer. Their president, Jim Carr, said this to Fox 4.
When we think about fairness and competition, I think it's pretty well accepted that there are male advantages in sport. Strength, size, speed.
Like all these just, pretty much basic things. It's really not that complicated. It's about protecting women's sports. And the NAIA had the backbone to do what the NCAA has not had the backbone to do. They've had the cojones to keep cojones out of women's sports. There's a concept, isn't it?
Such a cute soundbite.
Well, great. Good for them. I'm glad they did it. You can accept somebody for wanting to live a different life in America while also saying they're not going to compete against women. That's not going to happen. So that was a big win, and that was incredibly brave for the NAIA yesterday. That was stunning. NCAA won't do it. They don't have the backbone and the stomach to do it. And then this came down yesterday as well. The Vatican declared gender-affirming surgery as grave violations of human dignity, putting them on par with abortion and euthanasia as practices that it said reject God's plan for human life. Now, I didn't think I'd see this from Pope Francis. I have very little faith in Pope Francis. Pope Francis is one of the reasons that I have left the Catholic Church. Now, we found a great new church in a different denomination, but, Pope Francis, one of the many reasons I hung him up with the Catholic Church a long time ago. And from a pope, who has done a lot of outreach in that area, to go ahead and put this out there was surprising. Now, the Associated Press was not happy about it. The Associated Press wrote in part here, I'm just reading this from the Associated Press, from a pope who has made outreach to the LGBTQ plus community a hallmark, the document was received as a setback, albeit predictable by trans Catholics. But its message was also consistent with the Argentine Jesuits' long-standing belief that while trans people should be welcomed in the church, so-called gender ideologies should not be. In its most eagerly anticipated section, the Vatican repeated its rejection of gender theory, or the idea that one's biological sex can change. It said God created a man and a woman as biologically different, separate beings, and said people must not tinker with that or try to make one's self God. And that's exactly what this has been about for far too long, making oneself God. Now, it's amazing that it took the Vatican this long to get there, but they did get there. And frankly, it's sad to say, I wasn't sure they were going to get there. I wasn't sure they were going to come to that conclusion. So on the same day, the NAIA comes out and says, we're not having biological men compete in women's sports. And then the Vatican comes out and says, you may be accepting of somebody who wants to live a better life. However, we view this as grave violations of human dignity. Maybe there's a little bit of hope out there. I don't know. Wes and Gladstone, what do you got for me on a Tuesday? Go ahead.
Well, Pete, sorry we lost you off the team, but there's a phrase that keeps us practicing Catholics going, and that is, you hypocrite, you den of vipers, and that's not pointed at you, that's pointed at the Pope. So,
man, we're in a great place. We got a great church, but I appreciate that, Wes. Thank you.
Okay. So, hey, maybe we can get you back. But you were talking about nobody wants to say anything about what's going on in the violence, right? In the city. And it's very simple. You diverge from the party line, which is it's not the people, it's the guns, and you're ran out of the party.
It's about tyranny, pure and simple. And these people that think if I just go along with the party line, we can mutilate children and women and men can play against women in sports. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to stay in the party. I'm going to be okay. Nope. They ever take over, you'll be one of the first people that they'll purge. And that's why people's mouths are silent, man. That's all it is.
Thank you, Wes. I will play a clip next hour from a local TV station where people were talking on camera about this issue, the NAIA, and they were afraid to put their face on camera. Protecting females. That's what this is about. And as a father of 3 daughters, I applaud the NAIA for doing what they did. Not that it's likely that we're all going to have our daughters play against, a transgender person or whatever in sports. But it happens enough where it's like, can we just nip this in the bud? And more importantly, can we all just agree on this? And that's the amazing part. We can't seemingly all agree on this. Fox 4 is where that audio came from last night. And there were a couple of things that stood out to me in that Fox 4 package. The first part was the open written by some Fox 4 producer. I'm not going to get on Lauren Halifax because somebody wrote this script and they did a very poor job of writing this script.
And now the college athletics organization based right here in Kansas City has a new policy on transgender athletes. A day after a women's college basketball game got the highest rating in 5 years, the NAIA now says to compete in women's sports at that level, you have to have been born a woman.
Those two things have nothing to do with each other. They're completely separate points. It's like saying, I'm going to go eat Chinese food today because the sky is blue. They have nothing to do with each other. To say one day after the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship sets a record viewership, the NAIA has banned transgenders. Okay. The relevance and the correlation between those two things is nothing. There is no correlation between those two things. You act like the ratings of the NCAA Women's Championship was somehow driven by a transgender person. That's the way that sentence is framed, John, but it's completely meaningless to anything in the story.
I'm sure we'll talk about this some tomorrow, so this is kind of like a what if. What if the fact checkers actually address that trans ban? That's not true. It's like the Muslim ban. A transgender athlete can play in the sport relative to where they were born. They're not banning them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah. They just got to play in the sport of, their paraphernalia.
Biological birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So
more to the point, the NCAA could put their money where their mouth is. I sure want to see UConn, 2-time champions, take on undefeated South Carolina women's team. That would be great pay-per-view.
Let's see how that goes, right?
Well, the Jets beat the Colts in the Super Bowl. Something, you would pay to see so you could say, I was there when it happened. But it probably ain't going to happen.
No, I don't think it's going to go well for South Carolina. Something tells me. Now, Fox 4 also talked to parents. I want to play this part of the clip to wrap up the show here. Here it was yesterday on this news from the NAIA.
Near where that decision was made today, a youth volleyball tournament with high school students from around the nation was taking place. Most parents we spoke with seemed to agree with the decision, but didn't want to go on camera.
I mean, it's just not fair when you are taking scholarships away from collegiate athletes or high school athletes that could go on to play sports in college, and you're taking scholarships away and giving it to a male.
The most important part of that clip is they didn't want to be on camera. Think about that. Parents who were in Kansas City for a girls' volleyball tournament were asked to talk to Fox 4. And what did they say? Yeah, I'll speak the truth, but I'm afraid. They're basically saying they're afraid to do it on camera. What does that say about us as a culture, as a country, as a society? Parents are afraid to go on camera and speak what we know to be true. Men should not compete against women. It's inherently unfair. And people are scared to say that. They are scared to say the truth. And that in and of itself is scary.